been a while since we've talked to each other. In today's video, we're going to discuss the topic of user input, if and else if statements, and what a switch is. The reason why I want to cover this much in one video is it's still somewhat the basics and the logic is the same where I explained in all my previous videos where I cover switches and else if statements. The logic is pretty much the same. The only thing that's different is pretty much the language that we're writing it in, but the syntax is pretty much the same and it works in the same manner as it worked before, so I have no real reason to explain it again. So what are some sort of the things that we can do? Well, first off, if we want to make a somewhat solid of an application inside of Java, we obviously have to make, well, you know, get some sort of user input, because that's when applications are called somewhat decent and we have some sort of user interaction. You know, because an application is just a set of code and it's pretty much useless if the user doesn't get to interact with it. So enough talk, let's start coding. So as you can see, I have my syntax for compiling prepared. If I decide to compile this, it won't error out because we haven't really written anything. So to test it, all I have to do is just get rid of this C over here, and as you can see, it does absolutely nothing, which is okay with me. So what do we do to get user input? First of all, if we want to get user input, it's fairly simple. We have to use something called a scanner. However, to use a scanner, we have to use something called a library inside of Java. What a library is, it's pretty much a, let's say, a prepared set of commands for you to use in your applications. So let's say you create your own library with your own functions, let's call it math for example, and you have addition, subtraction, and stuff like that. You can really work with this as you would work with a other regular library. The difference is you don't have to rewrite literal blocks of code. All you have to do is just call the library, call the function, and that's it, therefore making your code look really professional. In our case, we want to use something from the utility library from Java called a scanner. To use it in our application, all we have to do is type in import java dot, then it was util, I think, and then dot scanner. Yes, dot scanner. As you can see, it already lets us know, and my keyboard switched. Perfect. So with this done over here, pretty much what we've done is we've called the scanner function from the utility library inside of Java, and we've imported it into our code so we can use it later down the line. So now what? Well, to make it so that we can get user input, we have to create something called a scanner. Well, we did already import a scanner, so why do we have to create it? Well, you have to call the function called scanner, but we have to define it as some sort of input from the user. To do that, there's a fairly specific syntax for this. So what you do is you type in scanner, then title it whatever you want. I'm gonna just call it, let's call it user input. User input, so that we know that it's the input from the user. And we're going to say that it's equal to a new scanner. And the new scanner will take any sort of input from the system. In our case, it will be input from the system library. So, oh, it's actually a small one, I think, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes, I am. Good. So what we've done here is we've actually created a scanner that uses the input function from the system library. Pretty much it will take any form of user input, so anything we write inside of here, it will take it as a form of input. So to show you a sort of a method of using this, I'm going to create a simple, like a really simple application that will just rewrite, it will output on the screen the same thing we write. To do that, we have to first create a string. So if you remember, strings in Java have to be capitalized as well as scanners and other various types. Let's call it user text so we can easily distinguish it. And next we're going to say user input dot, and then we need to type in what we want. So forms of input that can be taken in Java are of various types. For example, if you want to read a text, we have to use next line, because it will take the string as the value from the user. So we have to use the next line. If we want to take a integer number, next int. If we want a float number, next float. If we want a double, like a double form of a number, a double variable, next double. Want a long variable, next long. So pretty much when I talked about data types before, we have to just write the word next before them so that we can take them as a form of input. But to take them as a form of input, we have to put brackets at the end of those. Also, if you're wondering when my cursor escaped to another window or to another monitor, I have my notes open and I have to scroll through those. I have some examples and stuff prepared there, so yeah. So what do we do now? Well, now we need to tell it like, hey, I want to take a string input. I want to take it as a form of text. Well, just type in next and line. Put these brackets there and a semicolon. You're pretty much done, but let's say we want to output the text. So we're going to type in system dot out dot print ln for printing a line, and we're going to print out the text called user text. So now if I decide to compile this, you can see it somehow works, so let's try running it. So now what it's doing, well, you can see it's doing nothing. What it's doing is waiting for us to write something in order to complete its function. So let's say, hi, this text was written by me. And if I hit enter, you can see it wrote it out. So pretty much anything you write in as a form of text here, it will print out as a form of text, because the next line function from the scanner that we've titled user input pretty much takes the text that we've written there and prints it out for us. So this was for a string. So let me just do here I'm going to type in text input and output, and I'm going to comment these out because we do not want them to interfere with our application. You guys can comment those out. The code will be, as always, on my GitHub. So yeah. So what else is there? For example, we can also take, well, any form of a number really. So to take some sort of a number, let's call it, I don't know, let's call it number 1, and then we're going to use a double. Look, I'm going to make it really simple for us. Once again, we're going to type an int to take a form of number, and let's call it, what's an ideal number or a title? Let's do user int for a user integer, and we're going to type in again the title user input, because that's what we still have. We have still the scanner, and we're always using just this one scanner. One really cool thing is you don't have to define another scanner. You can just have one defined at the beginning, and you can keep on reusing it for different functions, which is really useful. And next what we do this, and we type in next, and you pretty much guessed it, int, because we want a full number variable, for example. So that's the end thing. But let's say we want to also take a double, and the double will be, I don't know, his height. Or do we want height or do we want salary? Look, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to call it user double anyway. So let's do double user double equals user input dot, and you guessed it, next double thing. Yes, next double. Now, if you see my eyes moving to the side, once again I have my notes there, so that's why. Let's just print it out and see what it does. So once again, we're going to call the system library, take the output function, and we're going to use its built-in function called printLine to print our line out. And let's say we want to print out the user int. And again, we're going to type the same thing in here. System.out.println, and let's do user double so we can see that everything that we wrote in is actually being printed out properly. So I'm going to compile this. I'm going to run this. So now what it's doing. So now, since we've commented this section of the code out, it's not gonna do this section. We still have the same scanner, so all we do here is we are loading. So now it's waiting for us to type in a integer number. So to do that, let's say we do 5. So we did 5, but unlike the previous example where it printed out immediately, it's actually waiting for a double now. Let's do 2.5. If I hit enter now, as you can see the application completes because it prints out our user int, which is the value we typed in here, and printed it out over here because according to the code, we have it here in this section right here, so it prints it out over here. Then we took a double, which is this type of value right here, 2.5, and we store it as the user double variable, and we then print out its value onto the screen, which we've printed out over here. We could also make it a bit more distinguishable so that we know what we are typing in, but that's more of a thing that we would do if we were to, you know, do a few more complex applications with this. But that's pretty much all you have to know. So I'm going to add a comment here and do a number input and output. So now what do we do? So since I've commented this thing, I'm going to actually leave these bits of code in here, but I'm gonna comment them out once again. You can uncomment these if you want to see what they do. I'm not gonna use these anyway. So since we've covered the topic of user input now, what else can we do? Well, since we have user input, the next logical thing to do for us is to learn about the if statements and incorporate some sort of logic to demonstrate to you even further that it actually works. So, let's talk about if statements, else statements, and then we're going to talk about switches. So pretty much the first 13 minutes we've talked about just user input, which is more than enough because that's all you actually are going to need. Now I'm going to talk about if statements to incorporate some sort of logic into our application. So if you have seen one of my previous videos, or actually multiple ones on this topic, they work pretty much in the same way. They pretty much check if a variable has reached or surpassed a certain value. If it does a certain action, and if it doesn't, it will do something else, hence the name else. So let me make a simple application using what we've learned about user input. We're going to reuse our scanner. Again, you don't have to define a new scanner if you don't want to. You can, but I'm not gonna do that because it will mess up our code a little and it won't be as pretty looking. A general rule of thumb is just to make it as simple as possible for yourself so that it's much more readable for other programmers and coders. So just a little tidbit there. So what do we do? Well, we are going to define a variable that we are going to use to input it as a form of time, let's say. Let's say we want to check if the time typed in is longer than, I don't know, if it's longer than 10 seconds. Let's say it will be inputted seconds. So first we have to actually let the user know, like, hey, I want you to type in a number to make it a bit more, let's say, approachable to the user, so that he knows what to type in. So let's actually create a application where we're going to, instead of time, scratch that. Let's make an application that will work as a login form, like a registration application. We're not gonna save it anywhere. It's just gonna be a really simple one. We're just going to check the age of the person. If they are of a certain age, if they are not, we're not gonna let them through on the next few sets of questions, for example. So let's first create some sort of output on the screen so the user knows what to do. So let's do system.out.println, and here I'm going to type in what I want from the user to do. So hi, please enter your name, for example. And what we're going to do is we're going to store it as a string variable. So if you remember, we're going to create a string. Let's call it name of the user, so it's going to be called name. And we're going to say user input dot, and it was next line. As you can see, I already have my suggestions since I wrote it before. So now what we did is we've made a simple prompt for the user to type in their name. One thing I like doing every single time I work with inputs and outputs in any form of language is to type it down with some sort of text. So to do that, we're going to create another system out, and we're going to use the println function. And here's a really neat trick you can use in pretty much every language. I will explain what the plus sign is there in a sec. So, hi there. Then we type in the name. Nice to meet you. So what have I done here exactly? So here we have the user input where we ask the user to type in their name, and we store whatever they wrote out as the name variable. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying hi there, it will do a space, then it will print out the name of the person that they've typed in, and then nice to meet you. So to show that it actually does work, we're going to compile our code once again. I'm going to run it. So as you can see, it prompts us to type in our name. So hi, please enter your name. Let's say Thomas. We're going to take my name. We hit enter, you can see it prints out hi there, Thomas, nice to meet you. And this is pretty much a really nice way of making a more of an interactable application. So this is what I like doing. Next we're going to take an age, and we want to check if the user is older than, let's say 15, we will write out something. If they're older than, I don't know, 18, they're pretty much an adult. So let's say that if they are older than, I don't know, let's say 13, hi there, teenager, for example. And if they are older than 18, we want to do hey there, adult. And if they are older than, I don't know, let's say 80, hello there, grandpa, for example. And if any other number, we'll just say hi there, and that's it. So to use that, we're going to use actually something called a else if statement. If I remember it correctly, yes I do. So we have our name. Let's ask the user to type out their age. So again, we're going to use the system library, and we're going to say out. Then we do println. Could you please enter your age? Could you please enter your age? And let's do that. And here is where the fun begins. So we're going to create this will be a full number variable, so we're not going to accept any form of weirdness in that. So since we know it's a full number variable, we're going to use the int, like, to know it's a full number variable, and let's call it age. And it's going to be the user input, and then we do next int because it's a full number variable. So pretty much what we've done here is we have taken any sort of number they type in, we've started as the age variable. So here, under here, I'm going to type in the logic. So as I mentioned, we're going to do that if the person is, let's say, also the syntax is pretty much the same for C and C++. The only difference is how you write the input, output, and everything else is pretty much the same. So let's say that if they are older than no. Okay, if they're older than 13, then it's going to write out, we're going to do system, forgot it's case sensitive, system.out.println. And let's do, what do we want to do? So you are a teenager. So you are a teen. Let's say you're a teen, like a teenager, but it's a shortened form of it. Next to, if they are older than 20, we're going to do a else if statement instead. And we're going to use these brackets once again and again. So if their age is bigger than let's say 18, since they are a full-fledged adult and is in our country once they are 18, I'm going to pretty much copy this set of code because I don't want to rewrite it all the time. And you are an adult. You're an adult, and if anything, and let's do another else if, and we're going to check if, we're going to check if their age is bigger than, let's say 80, let's say you're part of the elderly, I cannot speak today, you are part of the elderly. Hope I typed it in correctly because I don't want to get yelled at. Elderly. Elderly. There we go. I was thinking I missed a character, and I did. So yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah, okay, seems okay now. And well, if anything else is typed in, we're going to do you are too young to use this app, for example. So to do that, we just type in a simple else statement. And we're going to type in again, system.out.println, and let's say you are too young to use this, app. And that's pretty much the logic done. So pretty much what we are doing is we're checking if he's of the age of 13, it's going to write out this. If it's older than 18, he's an adult. If he's over the age of 80, he's part of the elderly. And if he's anything else, so pretty much anything lower than 13, it's going, so if he's 12, for example, or she is 12, it's going to run out, you are too young to use this app. At least it should. Programming with statements like these is always finicky. So with that done, all we have to do is just run it now. So it's going to ask us for our name. So let's do Thomas once again. As you can see, hi Thomas, nice to meet you. Could you please enter your age? I'll say sure. Let's type in 12. And it says you are too young to use this app. So as you can see, it did what we wanted it to do. So if they type in a number that's lower than 13, it will jump right here and write out you are too young to use this app, just like we told it to. I'm going to run it once again. This time type in my name once again. So it writes out the same text, but now we're back at this section of the age. So let's say I'm 15 now, for example. Type in 15. You are 18, and it exits. So this function is no longer, like, it is still valid. Well, it is valid because, you know, we typed in 15. So this is no longer valid, so it doesn't do it. You know, this doesn't get triggered because this section got triggered, you know. So I'm going to rerun the application again. Type in my name again. I know it's a bit tedious, but you know. And let's do that I'm at the age of, I don't know, 20. So what happened there? Well, what happened is it didn't necessarily work as it should. You see, it does this and doesn't do anything else. It doesn't check anything else in that. To take full advantage of these, we have to actually use just regular if statement instead of else if statements, because it doesn't like really, you know, like to work like this. So it's much better to use just regular if statement instead of else if statements. If you are going to do something more complex with a set range of values, I would recommend to use else if statements. I still don't know why it didn't work. I tested this before and made sure that it did. It didn't. Let's just type in Tom. I don't want to write my full name again. And let's try this again. So let's do 20. Well, here's the thing. Once I type in 20, it doesn't work as it should. So we have to still use the else if statements in that. But, you know, else if doesn't actually work inside of here. I mean, it could, but it for some reason doesn't. You see, else if statements will work if the first condition to be executed is false, which it wasn't. So unless this isn't, you know, we need to make it a bit more robust. So what happened here is else if statements work in this fashion. But technically, both of these we've done both of these right. So why did it just print out that you were a teen, even though you were an adult at the age of 20? But you see, else if statements work a bit differently. Else if statements get triggered only if the previous statement isn't true anymore. So what we have to do is we need to extend the condition. To extend conditions to check for multiple conditions in one condition statement, we add the double ampersand signs. What we do here is we check if the user is older than 13 and let's say still younger than 18. To do that, we do age, and then less than 18. So what we're doing here is we're pretty much checking if the user or if the person using this application, aka the user, is older than 13 years old, and is younger than 18, it will print out this. At least I think that's how it should work. If the user is older than 18 and is younger than 80, he's considered an adult. And here we can leave the if he's over the age of 80, because you know it's only one like section and it shouldn't really matter as much. So what we've done here is I think that's how it should work. You know, we'll see if it does or does not work. You know, if statements are kind of finicky in any language if you don't know how to write those properly. Again, I'm going to type in our name, and let's do at the age of, I don't know, let's do 19. As you can see, it worked now. So it said you're an adult, which is true. Since the age of 18, you are pretty much considered an adult. So what it did, it checked for both of these. And this one wasn't true because the number we typed in was larger than 18. And it stops at 17 because, you know, I had to add an equal sign to make this true. Look, to make this like properly, we would have to do what would we have to do here? If he's equal or bigger to 18, and if he's equal to bigger than 80 to make this work properly, and if he's equal or bigger to 13 to not trip it out. So what I've done here is we're going to pretty much check, is he exactly equal to 13 or bigger than 13, but it's still, look, if he's 13 exactly or anything older, but still younger than 18, it will print out that he's a teen. Let's compile this and see what it does. You can see it doesn't work this way, because you cannot type it out like this. At least I think so. I'm going to just reverse these and see what it does. I never actually gotten this to work before. Well, it would be sick if I got it to work. Oh, now it works. So if it's bigger or equal to 13, so literally what I said, but I typed it in the reverse order. So if he's bigger, or if he's 13 or older, but still younger than 18, it will type out you are 18. So let's test it out. Let's see if it does work. So we type in our name once again. As you can see, the same message still pops up, and here's the logic part. So what do we want to do here exactly? Well, let's say we are at the age of 13. It will type out you are 18, which is okay. That's what it's supposed to do. Type in my name again, and let's say I'm 12. It says you're too young to use this app, which it should, because it didn't check out in any of these conditions. So if we run this up again, and let's say I am older than, let's say I'm at the age of 19, it should say that I'm an adult, which I am. I am an adult, which is I'm older than 18, but I'm still younger than 80, so I'm still considered an adult. So now if we run this up again, type in our name again, and let's say that I'm, I don't know, 80 years old. It says you're a part of the elderly, so if it's anything bigger or equal to 80, you're pretty much considered elderly. I know it sounds kind of discriminating, but trust me, that's how I coded it, and as you can see, it works. So that's if and else if statements, which is like sick and neat and stuff. But there's also one more thing, and one that can be really useful if you want to make a, let's say, a makeshift menu. So let's say we're going to make a menu where we're going to ask the user if they want to type in their name or their age. So we're going to pretty much reuse the code that we've written here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this section of code, and I'm actually going to keep it as it is. I'm not going to comment it out like the previous ones, because this is like fairly simple. Since this is fairly complicated, I'm not going to rewrite it. You can either watch the video or ask me personally how it works. I actually like watching the video right now, so why am I telling you this? So, yeah. So what do we want to do now? So now we want to create a switch Now, what is a switch? A switch can be used to create pretty much menus in pretty much every of the major languages. I used switches in the past where I wanted to design a simple command line menu. I didn't want to confuse the user too much, which is a really neat way of pretty much letting the user know, like, hey, I want you to do something even though you have to pick the action. So we pretty much, to make a really decent application, you have to have a menu to let the user pick what they want to do, because not everyone wants to keep writing the name out, which was the problem in our application right here. Every single time we ran it, all I wanted to do was just change the age to show that the logic works. The reason why I kept it this way is I didn't want to introduce switches till the very end, because switches are actually really simple. So, what do we do? We're going to create a really simple menu here. To do that, we're going to use the system function once again. Use the system library, the output sublibrary, and the function called printLine. We're going to make a menu, so let's say pick an action. And let's create the menu. So the way I like to create menus is by chaining multiple strings together and separating them using these indents. What this does, it puts it on the next line, which is what I want it to do. Let's do 1 dash, and let's say enter your name. And we do the same thing over here. And we do 2 and dash, and then we do enter your age. And that's pretty much it for our menu. We could also add another option to just exit the app, but I'm not gonna add that in because it's not required. Next thing, we're going to make it so it looks like fairly decent, I suppose. So yeah, let's do another indentation where we're going to ask the user to type in. So we're going to type in your pick, and that's a simple menu design. It looks like a menu, but it doesn't work like a menu. It looks like it, but it doesn't work like one, which I hope makes sense. So here's the deal. We're going to create a new integer variable called menu. So we're going to create one called int menu. I'm going to say user input because we want to take the input from the user once again. Oops, I'm dumb. Let's say next int because we want to use the phone number variable. And what we've done here is we've created a menu variable where any number we type, for example 1 or 2, it will do 1 or 2 of those things, but it doesn't know how to do it yet because we didn't tell it to do it. So now we're going to create something called a switch to incorporate the logic into it. You could use if and else if statements for this, but to make it look a bit more professional, I would recommend that you use switches instead of if and else if statements. But you know, that's just dependent on you and how you want to work with things. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm going to create a switch at the expression. And the expression we're looking for is the menu. And here is the fun part. So we're going to create a case. And in case he picks the number 1 option, we have our code block here. And we're going to add our break. You might have noticed that it looks pretty much similar to the C language definition of a switch, which is pretty much our case here. See what I did there? So we're going to copy this once again, and now we're going to change the case here to 2, because in case he types in the number 2. And let's do I'm sorry, a bit sick, it's not good. And we're going to do the default. So just in case something happens, it will write out something. In our case, it will be system.out.println, and let's say no option selected or picked. Let's do picked to make it a bit more sensible. No option picked, and let's add a frowny face where he's crying and asking. So to show you that it actually does work, I'm going to copy this line of code and we are going to have some fun with this. So we're going to do what? Option 1 picked, and that's it. And I'm going to copy this, and just to show that the logic actually does work. This is not the final form of the menu. This is just to show you that it did actually work, so that it does actually do something. So now if I'm going to compile this, it's going to work, and we're going to run this. And as you can see, our menu has been automatically printed out. So let's say we pick option 1. It says option 1 picked, and it loads everything else. So now, let me just cancel this out, run it again. Also ignore this, I cancelled it with Ctrl+C so I don't have to do this again. And if I do pick number 2, it says option 2 picked. So it works. So just clear this out for later. So now what do? We can pretty much take this code right here. We can take it, and we're going to replace this section of code with this code. And I'm going to indent it so it doesn't look bad, and that's it. And I'm going to take this logic of our age function. As you can see, we can already reduce the amount of stuff in there by a nice metric amount. I just have to indent it properly so you guys can read it normally. You don't have to do this, it would work either way, but I recommend to do this pretty much every single time if you're working with stuff like this, so that the code is pretty much readable for anyone else that decides to use the app and have a look at the code themselves. So now we've created an application where we gave the user an option to pick what they want to do with our application. So let's say they want to take an action, and let's say they want to write their name. Why am I explaining this with the code? I can just show you it after I compile it. So let's compile this, you can see it works, and let's run it. So now it wrote out a menu for us. Let's say we pick the option 1. So what it should do, it should ask us to write our name. We type in our name and it will print out the message for us, and then we'll exit the app. So let's pick option number 1. So what has happened here? Well, you see, it did in fact do what it asked, do what we have asked it to do, but it's actually much better to make a specialized scanner for a separate inside function. So what happened here is, if I run this again, if I pick option number 2, okay, so in age it does work normally, so in strings it doesn't work, I guess. Let's just try this again. So no, strings do not work in fact. So the thing that happened here is, since we are writing it like we would normally write it like this, it doesn't know what to do with it. So my guess is, since we are, I don't know what's happening here actually. So it works here but doesn't work here. That's weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure this out later. So let's try the second option, type in our age instead. Let's do 5. It says you're too young to use this app. And let's say we want to type in our age again. Let's say that we are 18 now. It says you're an adult. So the function is still the same. It still functions the same way. Let's do 85. It says that we're part of the elderly. and let's say that we're 12, it says that no option picked, which is not actually, oh wait, it is actually true. Age 12, okay, there we go, you're too young to use this app. So the number ones work, why doesn't the string one work? To be honest, I have no idea. It was working just fine, but why it doesn't work now, it's beyond me. Maybe it's because we're printing out the line next, it doesn't give us actually the option to write it out. Because here we're waiting, but here we're not. Interesting. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I didn't think it would cause any problems. It shouldn't have, but it actually did. That's interesting. So, here's another thing I was curious about. We can just use the print function and here use the print line function, or just use print here and just indent it manually. I'm just curious if it will let me do it. Apparently it will. So if I pick option 1, it still does the same thing. So this section doesn't work in this case, which is sad because it should work, but it doesn't. So it's interesting because numbers do work, but strings don't. So it really like defeats the purpose now, doesn't it? But you did see that switches do actually work, so I'm gonna create real quick a new example and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back. So I figured out what the problem was. So pretty much the problem boiled down to me using the same switch for the same, the same scanner for the same thing. So what I would recommend for you to do is just separate your scanners a bit better, which isn't really that difficult to do. In fact, I will have to make it a bit easier to read just by doing this. I'm sorry. No. Actually, I would make it a bit more complicated this way. So there we go. So just like I had it before. So what I had to do is I had to define a new scanner to separate the input. And what I did here, I pretty much, also I removed the print line here, over here, because I don't have to use it. I don't have to use it here because I'm indenting it automatically right here with this. However, here I have to use it because I don't have the \n. In fact, let me make it a bit more easier to understand without any more complications. So if I decide to run it now, let's compile this and see it works in terms of compiling. So let's see if it does actually work. So last time if we were going to type in our name, it just errored out, it like skipped it. Now it's asking for that name, and what you will notice is our cursor is right behind it. Well, not right behind it, but you know, on the same line. Why is that? I've created here a print, and so using the print line, I'm printing it out, and we'll place the cursor right behind any form of text. Any form of text inside of these double quotes, it will place the cursor right behind it because we're waiting for user input. So if you want to put your cursor right next to your text that you printed out, just use the print function and not the print line function like I use here. So let's say we type in our name, let's say Thomas once again. It will exit the app and say, "Hi there Thomas, nice to meet you," which is what it should do because I told it to do that exactly. So now let's run the application again, and let's say we want to type in our age. So we pick the option number 2. As you can see, I have the same thing going on here, but as soon as I type in a different age, it will print a line, so it will move it onto the next line, the next text. So let's say I'm at the age of 14, it will print out "You are 18. Let's run the application again, I want to type in my age again. Let's say I'm 19 now, you're an adult. If I run this application again, and let's do the age section once again, let's do that I'm 85, it will say you're part of the elderly. And if I run this again, and let's say I'm at the age of 12, you're too young to use this app, and that's pretty much it. So we've created our simple menu. I'll go over the code once again so you guys can understand what I'm saying. So pretty much what we've done here, we had to create 2 scanners, one for each condition basically. We didn't have to do this, I think. I don't know why it just errors out, but if I were to recommend you something, there will be other methods you can use. I'm just trying to show it in a more accessible manner. So we've created 2 user input scanners, called user input and user input 1. We create a menu which will store the number we type in, for example 1, as the integer into our menu variable, which is also an integer. And here we have our switch, which is kind of the logic of the menu. So if the user picks option number 1, it will ask them to write their name. It will store the name that the user has written as a string called name, and it will print it out saying, hi there, the name of the user that they've typed in, and it says that nice to meet you. Then it breaks out, exits the entire switch, and exits the application, which is what happened in our case. Where is it? Right over here. It wrote out the name and then exited the app, so we had to launch it again. I'm not gonna show you how you can implement relaunching the app in case it has closed, because it's not really important. Next, if we pick the option number 2, it asks us to type in our age, or if we at least could type in our age. So we do that, and then we check using logic certain age categories. So if they are older or equal to 13, and these ampersands pretty much check for multiple conditions. So if the user is older than 13 but still younger than 18, it will print out you are 18. If the user is older or exactly 18 years old and he is still younger than 80, he's considered an adult. In case our user is older or equal to 80, he's considered part of the elderly, which is what happened. Where is it? There we go. That he's part of the elderly. I typed in the age 85, which is bigger than 80, so it will write it out no matter what happens. And then, if none of these check out, so the person is actually younger than 13, so he's, I don't know, 8 years old or 12 years old. I can actually show you this. Let's say our user is 8 years old, it will print out the same message it would if we typed in the number 12. It goes the same if the user was, I don't know, 3 years old. See? It does the exact same thing. You're too young to use this app. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to it, and in case none of the options were picked, let's say you want to pick option 3, which doesn't exist, it writes out your no option picked and then our crying face right here, which is the default just in case nothing else has been picked. And that's I'm sorry, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else to it. Again, the code will be available on my GitHub. You can toy around with this, play with this as you want. I hope you found this video quite informative. It's fun for me to make these videos. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to cover next, so I'll just, well, we did data types and casting. Well, we did do that. If we quickly check my GitHub to have a look. There's the Java for replace repository. So I'm gonna bring this over here to the monitor so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this is the repository which I point to you guys every single time we're talking about code, and it's in the description, as I always mention. And as of the recording of this video, there are three files. Sample.java, which I use as the base for all the other files, and then I just change their titles. For example, we have the hello world.java file here, and then the data types.java file here. There will be another one added, which will be this file right here. It will be called user input if else if switch.java. It's a really complicated name, but it's fairly explicit. You can run it by yourself. I showed you how to install the JDK in the very first episode and how to set up our environment so you guys can code along with me. And that's pretty much it. That's our fairly solid application with the code explained. To be honest, I don't know what else we want to do actually. I haven't done anything with loops actually, so I think I want to do loops. Let me see. Yes, so we're going to cover loops along with arrays. I think that's what I want to do. Hold on. Yeah, we're going to cover loops and arrays as I'm looking at my notes in the next video. Then we're going to cover methods, object-oriented programming, and methods and classes and everything. So I'm just going to go over the main things you have to know in order to start writing your first applications. So once again, I hope you guys found this video quite informative, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one where we're going to pretty much discuss everything else that you guys might need. Also, let me know in the comment section below if you want to see something that it will help you. I will try to make my best to make a video about it, and I'm already stretching this video out for far too long than I should have. I've literally spent just an hour doing and explaining, hopefully not too much at the same time, and hopefully you guys were able to follow along. Again, make sure to subscribe, share it along. It's free after all, you don't have to pay anything. And I'll see you guys in the next one, so make sure to stay safe, have fun, and also in the description you can find my wallpapers. I've decided to put those in there from now on, because I got a few people asking me about my wallpapers in my DMs and such, so yes, so from now on you'll see in my descriptions there will be another section where my wallpapers will be accessible. So yeah, make sure to stay safe, have fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!